Jokic, this dude is so fucking good, man.
All right, welcome to the show, everyone. Today, we're going to touch the third rail of basketball discourse. We're going to do something that feels like blasphemy. For 3 decades, the debate for the greatest basketball player of all time has been a settled issue for most: Michael Jordan. His name is the mountaintop. His legacy is etched in stone, built on 6 championships, unmatched competitive fire, and a cultural impact that transcended the sport itself. But what if I told you that the very tools of analysis we've developed over the last 20 years, the advanced metrics, the on-off data, the deep dive analytics, paint a different picture? This isn't about sneakers or legacy or who is the bigger cultural icon. This is a cold, hard look at who is fundamentally better at the game of basketball. I've spent weeks buried in the data, poring over the film, and I've come to a conclusion that might sound crazy, but one that the evidence overwhelmingly supports. Today, I'm going to make the data-driven case for why Nikola Jokic, the unassuming Serbian center drafted during a Taco Bell commercial, is a better, more impactful basketball player than Michael Jordan. Before you turn this off, hear me out. This isn't a hot take for clicks. It's an argument built on a mountain of evidence that challenges our traditional understanding of value in basketball. We're going to deconstruct their games, contextualize their eras, and dive deep into the numbers that define their on-court impact. This is court calculus, and we're about to redefine the GOAT debate. The statistical summit, where Jokic rewrote the record books. So where do we even start? We start with the numbers, not the basic points and rebounds, but the powerful all-in-one metrics designed to measure a player's total value. And this is where the foundation of our argument begins. Because Nikola Jokic isn't just elite in this domain, he's a historical anomaly. The all-in-one metrics boiling it all down. Think of stats like player efficiency rating, win shares, box plus minus, and value over replacement player as an attempt by very smart people to answer one question: how much does this player contribute to winning? They take everything a player does, the good, like scoring efficiently and creating for others, and the bad, like turnovers and missed shots, and boil it down to a single number that allows us to compare players across different positions and eras. For decades, Michael Jordan was the undisputed king of these metrics. His career numbers are the benchmark for greatness. He holds the highest career win shares per 48 minutes at .250, the highest career player efficiency rating at 27.9, and the highest career box plus minus at 9.2. These aren't just great numbers. They are, for all intents and purposes, the statistical Mount Rushmore. But then Nikola Jokic came along. Let's look at the head-to-head comparison. As you can see, Jokic has already surpassed Jordan in several of the most important rate stats that measure per-minute production. He boasts a higher career PER, a significantly higher true shooting percentage, a measure of scoring efficiency that accounts for 2-pointers, 3-pointers, and free throws, a higher win shares per 48 minutes, and a higher career BPM. In fact, Jokic's career PER of 32.8 in his 2021-22 MVP season broke the all-time single-season record, and his career BPM of 14.6 in one season is the highest ever recorded, shattering Jordan's previous best. Now, critics might argue that some of these box score-based stats, like BPM, are flawed. They were designed based on historical data where players fit into traditional roles, and they can sometimes break when a player defies those norms. For instance, some have argued that BPM overvalues assists for a center, which inflates Jokic's numbers. But this critique misses the fundamental point. Why does the stat break for Jokic? It breaks because the formulas were built on decades of data where centers were rim runners and post scorers, not the primary offensive engine and playmaker for their team. Jokic's role as a point center is so revolutionary that he generates guard-like playmaking stats from the center position. The formula isn't overvaluing his assists, it's correctly identifying an unprecedented level of offensive creation from a position it wasn't designed to fully comprehend. The fact that Jokic breaks the stat is not a sign of the stat's weakness, but rather a testament to his paradigm-shifting impact. The bug in the formula is actually a feature that reveals his true position-breaking value. The on-off impact, the definition of value. If all-in-one stats feel a little too much like a black box, let's look at something more direct.
on-off data. This metric is simple but profound. It asks, what happens to your team when you're on the court versus when you're on the bench? It's the ultimate measure of indispensability. Michael Jordan's impact here was, of course, immense. From 1985 to 86, the Bulls had a 112.1 offensive rating with him on the court and a 101.8 rating when he was off, a positive swing of 10.3 points per 100 possessions. During his absolute peak from 1989 to 91, his on-off net rating differential was around a staggering plus 20 points per 48 minutes, placing him among the all-time elite in terms of impact. But Nikola Jokic's on-off numbers are frankly unbelievable. In a recent season, when Jokic was on the floor, the Denver Nuggets had an offensive rating of 128, which would rank as the best team offense in NBA history. When he sat on the bench, their offensive rating plummeted to 104, which would have been one of the worst offenses in the league over the past decade. That is a plus 24-point swing for 100 possessions. This isn't just a one-season fluke. Jokic's on-off splits have consistently shown this level of seismic impact. This leads us to a crucial point about team construction and the concept of help. When Jordan retired in 1993 after his first three-peat, the Bulls, led by Scottie Pippen, still won 55 games the following season. They were a very good team without their superstar. The Nuggets, without Jokic, based on the on-off data, are not a good team. They are a high lottery team. This isn't a knock on Jordan, it's a testament to Jokic's singular ability to elevate a roster. His offensive system is the team's entire identity. Jordan was the undisputed leader and best player on his teams, but he operated alongside another Hall of Fame-level playmaker in Scottie Pippen. Jokic is both the primary scorer and the sole playmaker, making his presence fundamentally more essential to his team's basic functionality. The playoff magnifier, dominance under pressure. The ultimate test for any superstar is the playoffs, and this is where Michael Jordan's legend was forged. His playoff numbers are the stuff of myth. He holds the highest career playoff points per game average at 33.4 and the highest career playoff BPM at 11.1. In the postseason, he elevated his game by increasing his usage rate from 33.3% in the regular season to 35.6% in the playoffs, and his free throw attempt rate from .358 to .392, demonstrating a more aggressive takeover mentality that was simply unstoppable. As the playoff data shows, Jordan's dominance is undeniable. He leads in cumulative stats like win shares and VORP simply because he played in more playoff games. However, Jokic is right there with him and even surpasses him in key efficiency metrics like true shooting percentage and win shares per 48 minutes. His playoff BPM of 10.61 is the second highest in NBA history, behind only Jordan. And in his historic 2023 championship run, he became the first player in NBA history to lead the entire playoffs in total points, 600, rebounds, 269, and assists, 190. This data reveals two different but equally effective modes of playoff elevation. Jordan's approach was an amplification of his individual dominance. He shot more, he attacked more, and he bent the game to his will through sheer force and skill. He was a one-man wrecking crew. Jokic's elevation, on the other hand, is an amplification of his system. He doesn't necessarily hunt for more shots, he continues to make the right read, trusting his teammates and his offensive hub model even against the league's best defenses. His dominance comes from the resilience of his approach, not just an increase in his personal volume. This contrast, Jordan taking over versus Jokic continuing to orchestrate, is a fundamental difference in their approach to winning at the highest level, and it's a theme we'll return to. The anatomy of dominance, deconstructing two-way impact. So the top-line numbers are staggering, but numbers are just the what. To truly understand this, we have to get into the how. We need to break down the film, the philosophy, the very fabric of their games. And when we do, we see two completely different, yet equally dominant offensive paradigms. Offensive philosophy, the heliocentric star versus the systemic hub. Michael Jordan was the ultimate heliocentric weapon. Especially before Phil Jackson and the triangle offense, the Bulls' game plan was often simple: give the ball to Michael and get out of the way. He was a master of isolation, a one-man wrecking crew who could create a high-quality shot against any defender in the world. He was an elite scorer from every spot on the floor inside the three-point line, and his ability to create and make difficult shots is arguably the greatest the game has ever seen. Jokic, on the other hand, is the ultimate offensive hub. He is the system. He's been called a points five, a player with a point guard's brain and court vision inside a center's body. His offense is not built on isolation, but on constant motion, dribble handoffs, and intricate cuts, with Jokic acting as the decision-making nexus, often from the high post. He orchestrates the offense like a conductor leading a symphony. This philosophical difference has profound implications for how each player's offense functions against elite competition. A heliocentric offense, which relies on one player's individual shot creation, has an inherent vulnerability. If you can slow down that one player, you can disrupt the entire offense. This was the entire logic behind the infamous Jordan rules employed by the Detroit Pistons. Their goal was to physically challenge Jordan, double-team him, and force the ball out of his hands, betting that his teammates couldn't beat them.
An egalitarian, motion-based offense like the one Jokic runs is, by its very design, more resilient. The primary threat is not one player, but the system itself. The defense has to account for 5 players moving and cutting simultaneously, which makes it nearly impossible to load up on a single player. This is proven by Jokic's unique statistical signature. He consistently ranks first in the league in touches per game, but is often far down the list in time of possession, ranking as low as 55th in one season. This means the ball is constantly moving. He makes decisions almost instantly, preventing the defense from setting its feet and loading up on him. Therefore, Jokic's offensive style is more scalable and robust against the sophisticated rotating defenses of the modern NBA. He doesn't have to beat the defense by himself. He just has to read it and let his system pick it apart. The art of the pass versus the art of the score. This brings us to the core of their offensive differences. Michael Jordan was the art of the score. He was a master of every type of shot imaginable, particularly his iconic fadeaway jumper from the mid-range. His footwork was flawless, and his unparalleled athleticism allowed him to contort his body in mid-air and finish in ways that defied physics. He was an elite scorer from every spot on the floor inside the three-point line, and his ability to create and make difficult shots is arguably the greatest the game has ever seen. Nikola Jokic's game is the art of the pass. It's not just the sheer volume of his assists, which regularly places him in the top 5 in the league alongside point guards, but the quality and efficiency of his playmaking that sets him apart. He creates opportunities for his teammates with lightning-fast decisions, as evidenced by his incredibly low time of possession per touch. His passes are not just simple kickouts. They are incredibly creative and precise, often leading teammates directly into layups and dunks. He has been described as having the greatest pair of hands in the game by legends like Jerry West, capable of threading no-look passes through impossibly tight windows. In fact, tracking data shows that he consistently ranks in the top 10 for potential assists, where his line of sight is more than 40 degrees different from the path of his pass, a clear indicator of his ability to manipulate defenses with his eyes. This contrast gets to the heart of the true value of an offensive possession. A possession that ends with Michael Jordan hitting a tough, contested fadeaway over a defender is a good outcome for the offense. It has a decent chance of going in, and it's a testament to his incredible skill. However, a possession where Nikola Jokic draws 2 defenders at the high post and finds a teammate cutting backdoor for a wide-open layup is a great outcome. Modern analytics has proven that shot quality is paramount to offensive efficiency. The best shots in basketball are those at the rim and open three-pointers. Jokic's entire offensive game is a machine designed to generate these specific shots for his teammates. While Jordan was a master of making difficult shots, Jokic is a master of creating easy ones. In the long run, an offense predicated on creating easy shots will almost always be more efficient and more sustainable than one predicated on making difficult ones. This represents a fundamental mathematical advantage that Jokic's style of play has over Jordan's. The defensive conundrum, perception versus reality. On the defensive end of the floor, the narrative seems heavily skewed in Jordan's favor. His resume is inimpeachable: a Defensive Player of the Year award in 1988 and 9 selections to the All-Defensive First Team. He was a phenomenal on-ball defender, a terror in the passing lanes, and a true high-risk, high-reward gambler
who could single-handedly change the momentum of a game with a steal or a block. He was without question an elite defensive guard. However, a modern data-driven analysis adds some necessary nuance to this legacy. Recent investigations have revealed that Jordan's defensive statistics in his 1988 DPOY season, particularly his steals and blocks, were significantly higher in home games compared to road games, with his combined steals and blocks being 82% higher at home. This discrepancy, the largest of any DPOY winner in history, raises questions about the authenticity of those numbers and shines a light on an era where home team scorekeeping was notoriously biased. This doesn't erase the award or diminish his defensive talent, but it does force us to frame the discussion with a level of scrutiny that wasn't available at the time. Conversely, Nikola Jokic's defense is almost universally seen as his greatest weakness. The eye test reveals obvious limitations. He is not an explosive athlete, he can be slow-footed when forced to descend on the perimeter, and he is not a traditional shot-blocking rim protector. In fact, data shows that opponents often shoot a high percentage at the rim when he is a primary contester. So how is it that a player with these apparent flaws consistently posts positive defensive metrics? Advanced stats like DBPM and DWS regularly grade him as a positive contributor, and in some seasons even an elite one. The answer lies in the aspects of defense that the eye test often misses. Jokic possesses elite hands, allowing him to generate a high number of steals and deflections for a center. He is one of the best defensive rebounders in the league, consistently ending opponent possessions and preventing them from getting second-chance points. Perhaps most importantly, he has an incredibly low foul rate, which is one of the most underrated aspects of effective defense. Giving up free throws is the most inefficient outcome for a defense, and Jokic's ability to contest shots and defend the post without fouling is a massive hidden value. He combines this with a high basketball IQ, excellent positioning, and constant communication as the anchor of the defense. But the most significant part of Jokic's defensive value is not something that can be found in his individual stats. It's the feedback loop between his offense and his team's defense. Because Jokic is such a dominant post scorer and offensive rebounder, opposing teams are forced to play a traditional large center against him. They cannot go small to try and play him off the floor offensively, because he would punish smaller defenders relentlessly in the paint. This forces opposing teams into lineups that are often less versatile and less potent offensively than they would prefer. Jokic's offense dictates the opponent's personnel, effectively weakening their attack before it even begins. Furthermore, his low turnover, high efficiency offense means that the Nuggets rarely give up easy transition baskets. They almost always force their opponents to play against a set, half-court defense, which is inherently less efficient. This is a massive hidden defensive value that is a direct result of his offensive prowess. Michael Jordan, for all his defensive greatness, did not warp opponent lineup construction in the same way. This is a unique, systemic defensive impact that belongs entirely to Nikola Jokic. Context is king, a tale of two eras. Now, I know what you're thinking. You can't compare eras, and you're right, you can't. Not directly. The games were different, the rules were different, the styles were different. So let's not ignore the context. Let's dive right into it, because when we examine the context of their respective eras, the case for Jokic only grows stronger. The rules of engagement and defensive schemes. Michael Jordan's era was defined by its physicality. The league permitted hand-checking on the perimeter, which allowed defenders to use their hands to impede an offensive player's progress. This, combined with the illegal defense rule that limited the use of zone concepts, created an environment that was tailor-made for one-on-one battles. The defensive strategies of the time were a reflection of this. The Jordan rules, employed by the Detroit Pistons, were revolutionary for their time, but philosophically simple. Be physical, force him to his weaker left hand, and send aggressive double teams to get the ball out of his hands. Jokic's era is completely different. The removal of hand-checking and the illegal defense rule has led to an explosion of offensive creativity and, in response, far more complex and sophisticated team defensive schemes. The strategies designed to stop a player like Jokic are a world away from the Jordan rules. They don't just double-team him in the post, they employ schemes designed to deny him the ball entirely, sometimes as far as 40 feet from the basket. They use rovers to play in the space between him and his teammates, and they execute complex rotations and scrambles to cover the passing lanes he creates. It's a five-man chess match on every single possession, requiring a level of team-wide coordination that was unheard of in the 1990s. This brings us to a fascinating thought experiment. Who was better equipped to thrive in the other's era? The common argument is that Jordan, without the physical impediment of hand-checking, would average 50 points per game today. This is certainly possible, but it ignores the other side of the coin. Jordan's game was built on winning one-on-one matchups through his supreme athleticism and skill. Modern defenses are not about one-on-one matchups. They're about team-wide rotations, complex help schemes, and forcing the ball into predetermined kill zones. Jordan would face a level of sophisticated, unpredictable help that he never saw in his career. Jokic's game, conversely, is the perfect antidote to modern defense. His primary skill is not athleticism, but rather his processing speed and basketball IQ. He is built to dissect complex, rotating defenses and make the right pass in a split second. Therefore, while Jordan would undoubtedly still be a superstar in today's game, his style of play would be met with a defensive system specifically designed to counter it. Jokic's style of play is, on the other hand, the very counter to that system. His game is arguably more adaptable and future-proof.
The supporting cast and the meaning of help. No player wins alone, and the quality of a superstar's supporting cast is a crucial piece of context. For all 6 of his championships, Michael Jordan played alongside Scottie Pippen, a consensus top 50 all-time player, a Hall of Famer, and one of the greatest perimeter defenders in the history of the game. For his second three-peat, he also had Dennis Rodman, another Hall of Famer, and arguably the greatest rebounder the sport has ever seen. This is an elite Hall of Fame level of support. Nikola Jokic, in contrast, has achieved his historic success, 3 MVP awards and an NBA championship without ever playing with a teammate who was selected to an All-Star, All-NBA, or All-Defensive team in the same season. While players like Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon are excellent, they have not received the same league-wide accolades as Jordan's legendary co-stars. This isn't just a simple who had more help argument. It's about the nature of that help and how it was cultivated. Jordan's leadership style was famously demanding. He challenged his teammates, pushing them to elevate their own games to match his insatiable will to win. He led by example, but also by rebuke and harsh words, holding everyone to his impossibly high standard. Jokic's leadership style is completely different. He elevates his teammates' on-court production through his system. He makes average players good and good players great by spoon-feeding them the most efficient shots of their careers. Players like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Bruce Brown had career years playing off of him, and his unselfish, team-first approach fosters a cohesive and motivated team environment. This goes back to the on-off numbers. The Bulls were still a great team without Jordan, because Pippen was a great player in his own right. The Nuggets crater without Jokic, because the entire ecosystem is built around his singular talent. This demonstrates a more profound, quantifiable level of making teammates better. The final stage, 6-0 versus the modern gauntlet. Michael Jordan's perfect 6-0 record in the NBA Finals with 6 Finals MVPs is the ultimate trump card in any GOAT debate. It is the symbol of perfection, clutch performance, and unparalleled dominance on the biggest stage. It is without question the greatest team accomplishment in modern sports history. For his part, Jokic led the Nuggets on one of the most dominant playoff runs in recent memory in 2023, culminating in a Finals MVP performance where he averaged an incredible 30.2 points, 14.0 rebounds, and 7.2 assists per game. To provide a deeper level of analysis, we must contextualize the competition they faced. A 6-0 record is untouchable, but for the sake of a thorough examination, it's important to look at the quality of the opposition. This table provides crucial context. While some of Jordan's Finals opponents were strong defensive teams, particularly the 98 Jazz and 96 Sonics, others were more offensively focused, like the 92 Blazers and 93 Suns. Jokic's 2023 championship run required him to defeat a Suns team featuring Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, a Lakers team with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and a Miami Heat team renowned for its elite coaching and defensive toughness. This is not to say Jordan's path was easy, which would be an absurd claim. It is to say that the modern playoff gauntlet, with the level of talent spread across the league
and the sophistication of modern schemes is arguably as tough, if not tougher, than any era before it. The final verdict, separating the best from the greatest. So after all the numbers, all the film, all the context, where does that leave us? It leaves us at a necessary distinction, a distinction that I believe is the key to solving this entire debate. We have to separate the idea of the best from the greatest. The term greatest is about the resume. It's the story, the legacy, the rings, the cultural impact, and the mythology. It's the sum total of a career's accomplishments and its place in the annals of history. The term best, on the other hand, is about pure basketball ability. If you cloned both players in their prime and put them on a court, who has the more effective, impactful game? Who contributes more to winning a single game of basketball? This is about skill, efficiency, and systemic impact. The case for Jordan as the greatest. This is Michael Jordan's undisputed throne, and it's not up for debate. 6 championships with 0 finals losses is a mark of perfection that may never be matched. 10 scoring titles, a Defensive Player of the Year award, and 5 regular season MVPs create a resume of dominance that is almost unparalleled in history. He was a global icon who transformed the NBA from a popular American sport into a worldwide phenomenon, single-handedly driving the league's economic growth and cultural relevance to new heights. His story, from being cut from his high school varsity team to becoming the most famous athlete in the planet, is the most compelling in sports history. He is, and likely always will be, the greatest of all time. The case for Jokic as the best. This is where the argument of this entire report culminates. If the question is not about legacy, but about pure on-court basketball value, the evidence points to Nikola Jokic. Statistical superiority. As we've established, he holds all-time records in the most advanced all-in-one metrics like PER and BPM, which are our best attempts to quantify a player's total on-court value. He is, by these measures, the most statistically productive player in the history of the game. Unprecedented impact. His on-off numbers demonstrate a level of indispensability and floor raising that is arguably the most profound the league has ever seen. He elevates his team from lottery level to championship contender simply by stepping on the floor. A more resilient offensive engine. His pass-first, hub-based system is more adaptable, more scalable, and more resilient to the complex defensive schemes of the modern era. He generates higher quality shots for his entire team, leading to a more efficient and sustainable offense. Holistic value. His underrated and systemic defensive contributions, combined with his offensive genius, create a positive feedback loop that elevates his team on both ends of the floor in a way that is unique in NBA history. Doing more with less. He has achieved a historic peak, 3 MVPs, and a championship, without the Hall of Fame level of support that other all-time greats, including Michael Jordan, had during their title runs. So let's be clear. Michael Jordan is the mountain. He's the icon, the legend, the undisputed greatest of all time. His career is the standard against which all others are measured. But if the question is, who is the single best basketball player? If I had to pick one player in their prime to build a team around to win a 7-game series starting tomorrow, the data, the film, the very geometry of the modern game points to one undeniable and maybe uncomfortable answer. It's the Joker. He may not be the greatest, but he just might be the best we've ever seen. Thanks for tuning in to Court Calculus. We'll see you next week.